Hey, Riddle here. So this is going to be a strange video. You know, in the endings of a lot of my YouTube videos, I say, if you like my money saving tips, garden wisdom, blah, 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 occasional magic and art, please subscribe and share. And I know some people have subscribed to my channel because of the intentional spell work or focused, intentional energy work that I have posted just a couple videos of. And it's because my life experience has been that the world, life, death, and everything in between is a lot more complex than we can even begin to imagine. And I've had a really unusual life and very many unusual circumstances. I've written down a lot of my stories, and eventually it will be a book. Sadly, I kind of reached out to a friend to help me edit those stories back during the pandemic, and 4 years later, even though I had all the stories written, it's still not done. Womp, 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 womp. But hopefully someday I'll be able to make a video promoting that book, because it is a book on all of the supernatural experiences I've had throughout my life. Now, when I say supernatural, the first thing you have to understand, if you watch any of my videos, is that I'm really not one of those woo-woo, blind faith believing people. And that's what freaks me out the most, that I was chosen as, not to be corny or anything, as a conduit or a vessel for the other side to communicate with. And because I've been, for lack of a better word, psychic for so long, I'm very suspicious of psychics and very suspicious of people who do tarot cards and do that sort of work for profit. I had, when I was really young, I was hustling and surviving. And what I had some really strange experiences early on when I decided I was going to do tarot cards for a business. And it was shortly after that I decided that didn't really work for me, because my abilities were too strong, and that I wanted to keep whatever that was between me and whatever that source is pure. And I didn't want to taint it with money, or because I do think money can be, it's necessary. I'm not anti-money, but at the same time, I think there's just some things that money doesn't have a place. And I had other options, and so I decided to take that part of my personality, those talents of mine, and not involve them in my financial life. And I stopped doing the readings and psychic stuff for cash. But that being said, I think that actually got the spirits more interested in using me as a conduit, because I've had this lifetime of just really unexplainable experiences, And when spirits choose to communicate through me, they are very specific, very, very specific. And it puts me in a really awkward position, because sometimes when they decide to communicate through me, I don't know these people at all. So I had to develop techniques in order to not frighten people. So one of the techniques, if you're like me, or you have some kind of variation of psychic abilities, and you are like, oh my gosh, I have to tell someone this, but I don't know how to tell them without them thinking I'm crazy or without frightening them. One of the techniques that I developed was that I would tell the person, I had a dream about you. I had the strangest dream about you. And then basically tell them what the Spirit said to me, the message for them, as if I saw it in a dream. And then I could tell from the look in their eyes or their reaction if it resonated with them, if indeed, it was 100% for them. And then after their reaction, I would tell them the truth. And that's that. Often, I know that these messages come from a source way beyond me, because I'll forget. Like, they come to me at really weird times. And it usually feels like this thing that comes through like the crown of my head, and they like poke at me, but I'll be busy. I'll be like doing the morning chores on the farm here or something. And then I'll like forget about it, because it's not me thinking these things. It's something coming through me. And then they'll come back to me again and remind me, and they'll remind me again. And they basically will just, they'll just antagonize me until finally I commit to telling the person whatever it is that they that Spirit really needs to communicate with them. Another thing that has been really strange is that unborn children, it seems to me, and this is one of the reasons that I don't prescribe to a religion. I've never found a religion that really encompassed the vast knowledge or understanding that I've experienced of life and death and spirituality in the universe. To me, I was raised Catholic, and all the religious experiences and the religions that I see around the world are so human. They're extremely primitive, and everything from the text to the belief system is based in so much dogma and so much control and so much mythology, and it just never paralleled, especially the older I get, what I have seen when all my experiences traveling the world and with these things that happen to me. These things that happen to me in regards to spirits communicating with me to give messages to people, to help them, warn them, guide them. So all that being said, I had something happen recently that was a new one. And that's another thing about when you allow yourself to be a conduit and you allow these things to channel through you naturally versus trying to make them happen or doing it for profit. It seems every time always surprises me how differently Spirit communicates, and how intense and how different each experience is. And recently I had a new one, like a really new one. Over the years, I've experienced things like children communicating to me before they're born and literally telling me like why their mother couldn't get pregnant, what she had to do in order for that soul to be born through the woman. And also, and they would tell me like deeply personal things that were going on in the woman's emotional state that were keeping them from using her as a vessel. And then once I was able to communicate with her, with the woman who wanted to be a mother, and she was able to work that out, she would get pregnant. And often these souls, these children, would tell me like very detailed things about their journey while they were inside of their mother, like if she wasn't eating properly or how she was feeling emotionally. And it was crazy. And often they would actually tell me the day they were going to be born, like the day. And that was really interesting. And that gave me, and this is something no religion I've ever encountered ever described, but it seems to me that when we die, for lack of better words, but I don't think we ever die. I think it's this constant recycling, this constant state of recycling. And I think that has a scientific basis, and we haven't even begun to understand this. But basic law of physics is that energy never dies. It never disappears. It just transforms. And we know the human body is electric. We have electromagnetic field. We generate electricity. And I believe that essence is our soul. And when our physical body dies, that essence continues. And from what I understand, the same place that children come from is the same place that we go to after our physical body ceases to exist. We go to the other side. You can call it heaven if you'd like. I'm just going to call it the other side. Basically go back, recycle, figure stuff out, and then if you choose to come back, if you need to come back, then you come back and relive it and go through it and go through it. And it seems like it's this process of trying to perfect your experience and to perfect yourself as a being. And so we kind of go through it over and over again, where we're both the perpetrator and the victim, and we go through these cycles over and over again with often the same souls. And it's fascinating. It's really, really interesting. So that being said, recently, and I'm gonna use terminology right now that I don't want it to sound racist, but it's just like sometimes violence is important in a movie if it's relevant to the storyline. The only reason I'm sharing these specifics with you is that it's relevant to the story, and I don't want you to think I'm a racist. So I'm going to pre-qualify that right now. But I have this friend, and he was born in Los Angeles, and he was born in the Hollywood set. So even though he himself became famous or acquired any kind of fame or fortune, he was, there are very famous people that he calls quite frequently, and they're like American icons, and has conversations with them. They're like aunts and uncles basically to him, but not through blood, just through association. So he grew up in that really weird, kind of guarded, hyper dramatic, suspicious world of Hollyweird. And it definitely affected him. But then it gets even more complex, and that is he has an identical twin brother, and he and his twin brother are biracial. And when his mother decided to adopt them, because they had been given up for adoption, she was a Jewish woman, she and her husband, and her father, their mother's father, said, if you adopt those biracial children, I'm going to cut you out of the will. I'm going to like cut you out. He was not having it. And he was going to disown her. And she basically said, well, fuck you, because these are my babies and I love them and they're mine and I don't care. Take your money and stick it up your ass. So bold woman. And so she adopted my friend and his brother and, raised them from infancy or near infancy. They spent a very short time, in foster care, or that in-between space. And then my friend's mother and father, they didn't stay married. They had a kind of a troubled marriage, and father was kind of alcoholic. But the mother, true to stereotypical lore, was your, typical, very mama bear Jewish mom. And she really, really was that mom. And even though she, of course, did her best and didn't overtly ever abuse or, abuse my friend or his brother, his twin brother, she, just being so so bonded, like hyper bonded with them, it had a really strange effect on my friend. And, you know, this is notorious for Jewish moms. It infantilized him in many ways. It infantilized him where, you know, he's close to my age and he's never been able to have a normal relationship and doesn't believe that he will ever get married. And he waited a long time before he claimed his life. He's gay, and so he didn't come out of the closet till he was like in his mid-30s, and then he's still struggling with that, trying to figure that out, and he's almost 60, and he's afraid of money, and he's afraid of a lot of basic adult responsibilities. Another weird thing about my friend that always perplexed me was, you know, obviously he grew up in a Jewish family, and not only did he move to Germany, but he became, about 6-7 years ago, he became a Christian, which really freaked out his friends and his family, you know. And I asked him, because that's what I do. I think the easiest way to, you know, really understand somebody or to gain knowledge instead of judging them is to ask why, ask the questions. And he just simply said, oh, well, you know, when you're chosen, it just comes to you. And I was like, okay, all right, guess that's that. So that's the backstory. So this is what happened a month or so ago. So he lives in Germany, and I try to stay in touch with my friends. It's just who I am. I have the time, and even when I didn't have the time, I've always made the time. Deep friendships are important to me, and I tend to be incredibly loyal, and I prioritize friendship and time for my friends. And so he was complaining that a lot of his old friends from California and family, they just never stay in touch and blah, 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 blah. And so I always do. And so we would talk, and he's like, this is so nice. And even though, you know, we had to agree to disagree on some things, he said, you know, let's do this all the time. So I'm like, cool, let's do it every Sunday. He's like, oh, great. So then the first Sunday, of course, he flaked out on me, and blah, blah. And then the second Sunday, he flaked out on me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the difference between me and most people. I actually mean what I say, but it was just ironic because here's someone complaining that no one stays in touch with them. And then there's this person who's actually follows their word. And so you can kind of see like how sometimes people fulfill their own prophecy. It's a self-fulfilled prophecy. So a couple of weeks ago, I had this urge to call him, and it was strange because it wasn't the usual thing. And I called him up and I said, our parents, even when sometimes when they try to do their best, they don't realize that they can affect us, and they can influence, and they can injure us in strange ways, like psychologically and emotionally. And if, you know, there's a time in our life that we take care of our parents and we become the adults, and we have this, you know, we mature our relationship with our parents, if you're lucky. And that's kind of a normal, it's kind of a normal rite of passage. And the thing is with my friend is that he had such a bond with his mother that I was always worried that if she died, that it would destroy him. And, you know, it's inevitable. You know, both of us are almost 60, and I was always worried because he had almost this unhealthy, this like immature, like childlike attachment to his mother emotionally. And so when I called him up, I was like, you know, I think it's important that if you have anything unresolved with your mom, or if you can, you know, dig deep into yourself and figure out like maybe some emotional things that maybe you've been avoiding, and, you know, or, you know, some things you've been repressing, that it's important that you know, spend some time with her and really, like, for lack of better words, like advance or mature your relationship with her. And he's like, he's not getting this. He's not digging this conversation at all because he grew up in Hollywood. He tends to be really self-important and really private. And it was like I was looking into pieces and parts of him that he didn't want to be seen. And so right away he got kind of defensive, and he said, well, she's in perfect health, and there's always going to be time for that. And, it's all fine anyways. And, blah, 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 blah. And he just kind of like gaslit me. He just kind of dismissed what I was trying to share with him, and didn't like the fact that I was pointing out that he might have some, psychological or psycho-emotional issues that were created because of his outdated or unhealthy bond with his mother. So that's it. And so we ended the conversation, and blah, blah, blah. And a couple weeks went by, and all of a sudden I got this text from a mutual random friend in Los Angeles, and they said, Pete, I don't want to say his name, but they said, I don't know if you heard this yet, but our mutual friend's mother died suddenly. His mom died suddenly. There was nothing. She just like, boom, gone. And he's in Oregon now, like dealing with the arrangements and blah, 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 blah. So that was crazy, because how did I know that his mother was going to pass? And basically that's what I was preparing him for. I was trying to give him some time, because something was influencing me to do this. And in retrospect, and I've had this experience in the past with people that were going to die, that didn't know they were going to die, that they would suddenly have this clarity, and they would have these visions, and they would have these emotions, and they were very specific. And so now in retrospect, I really believe that like parts of his mother's spirit, her soul, were reaching out to me and trying once again to use me as a conduit to reach my friend, to prepare him for her death. That's what I believe. And the strangest thing is that my friend called this other random friend who he had complained about, never stays in touch, and he gossips about him terribly, and blah, blah, blah. And it's so weird that he would call him to tell him that his mother died, when my friend that he called doesn't know his mother any better than I do, but yet my friend has yet to contact me. It's been like almost 5 or 6 weeks to let me know that his mother has passed. So that's kind of weird, and kind of a telltale sign that, that what I was trying to share with him, what I was trying to open him up to, what I was trying to make him aware of or prepare him for, really hit the nail on the head. And that's awkward. That's awkward. And so I have not tried to call him. I feel like it's his responsibility. And if he really respected and really valued our friendship, that I would have been one of the first people that he should have contacted to share with, that his mother had passed, because I actually would have supported him and been there for him. But humans are complicated, and human emotions and human psychology and the human ego are equally as complicated, and you just never know what you're going to encounter when you're someone like me, and you are so intuitive and so in tune, not only to people, the obvious emotions that people try to hide and repress, but then you have this whole other level that you can't even begin to understand where that knowledge comes from. So I'm just letting go of it. And keeping it as, just another really powerful, interesting, unexplainable story to add to my knowledge base in regards to helping people with this gift that I have. And that's it. Okay. So please, if you watch this video, feel free to ask questions and put comments in the box, but I'm not interested. I'm not a professional psychic. So people in the past, when I did certain videos on similar topics, they wanted to pay me to do this or do that, but that's not my thing. I don't do this for money, but I do like to share. I like to share this perspective or this reality, only so if anyone else out there is experiencing these things, so you're not afraid and you understand that it's nothing to fear, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and you're not alone. You're not alone. And I believe, because I am so science-based, that someday they'll be able to explain how some people are so sensitive and they can pick up on this frequency of communication between worlds, and why other people have no connection whatsoever to it. And I look forward to that day, honestly, because it's really tricky sometimes having what I have and being able to do what I do. Yeah. Okay. There's not your garden wisdom, not your money-saving tips, not your rants, raves, and art. There's a little bit of magic for you, I guess. I guess this would go in the psychic or magic category. And hopefully this is a nice snack for those of you who subscribe to my channel because of some of the spells, for lack of better words, that I posted to help people out to focus their mind power and get a nice place to live, or bring some healing or comfort or security to their lives.